Hi guys, I'm back, and today we're going to be working with the GenCrafts Epoxy Resin. It is a crystal clear, premium quality, non-toxic, low odor resin. It's a 1-to-1 ratio, which means you just put equal amounts in 2 little cups and you mix them together. Super simple. I've already poured a little bit of this resin to see how it would work, and I'm actually quite impressed with it. I definitely would order some more of this, 100%. And as well, as soon as this is done, I will definitely be ordering more of it because I really enjoyed working with this resin. When it says low odor, a lot of resins say low odor, but then you smell them, you start working with them and they're terrible. But this one, actually, you can hardly smell it at all. Now, I do suggest, of course, wear your respiratory protection, and keep gloves on your hands at all times. But like I said, this one actually has hardly any odor at all. I mean, I can barely smell it. And I have a really strong sense of smell. I smell everything. My husband always says that a bloodhound must have bitten my mom when she was pregnant with me, because I can smell everything. Like, if somebody's smoking in the car on the highway, 3 cars in front of me, I can smell it. So anyway, and as well as it not smelling hardly at all, it is definitely a crystal clear resin. It turns out beautiful, very pretty, very clear. And it has a really lovely finish, nice and smooth. You can even mess things up in the middle of your work with it. And like with this little pendant right here, this is just a little swipe that I had done a long time ago on a little card, and I'd cut it out and glued it into the bezel. And so what I accidentally did was I had this sitting on the table, and I wasn't being particularly careful because I wasn't doing a video, and I was just kind of seeing how this stuff would work. And I came back later on to mess with something else, and I accidentally stuck my finger against it, and it hadn't cured, obviously, because it was only about 6 hours later. It hadn't cured properly, and so I left a lovely little big blemish where it actually pulled some of the resin away as I took my finger off of it. So then I kind of just tamped it back down, and I actually went and poured a little bit more resin over top of it, which I was a little worried about because I was afraid, for one, it would go over the edge because it was already domed. So I was afraid it would pour over the edge. It did not. I was also afraid that it would just kind of stay lumpy because it was the resin. I was at the end of using it, so it was getting kind of thick, and so I put it on there, and it was kind of lumpy on here, and I thought, oh no, I've pretty much ruined that one. I took the torch over it a few times just to sort of warm up the resin. You have to be careful, because if you keep your torch too close to it, what will happen is it will burn your resin, and you'll get these lovely, either terrible texture, or it will turn your resin kind of brown. So be careful when you're heating your resin. It was just to warm it up a little bit, see if it was spread out. And it did for the most part, but it still looked kind of lumpy. Well, I just covered it up and said, oh well. Came back later, and it has this absolutely perfect domed finish to it. You can see, if I get you really close, let's see if we can get you even closer. You see how beautiful that dome is. Absolute perfect finish. So yeah, I would definitely try this out again. And let's see, we've got another one here, and these were just old pieces of paintings that I had sitting around. This was actually a drip on the table that I cut out. So even your drips on the table can be beautiful. And then we've got this one, which was a chain pull, a small chain pull. Another beautiful finish there. And then we've got this one. Lovely finish. I mean, it's just, you can see how beautiful the finish is. I accidentally stuck my paper against it like the day, I think the evening, and I kind of made a blemish, and I didn't go back and fix it. But anyway, you can see how beautiful the finish is on those. So I'm going to show you how to use this resin real quick. Well, I say real quick, but it's not always real quick. Let's get you back in focus there. Here we go. All right, so what you're going to need, obviously, is some gloves, some little cups. I love using these little, they're condiment cups, you know, for like ketchup and mustard in restaurants. And I've had these for so long, I don't know where they came from. You're going to need a bezel of some sort. This is called Diamond Glaze. It's just super glue, basically, but I love it. You just get it at, you can order it online. It's real cheap. Lasts for a really long time. Alcohol swab, because once I put my painting down in the bezel, I will wipe over it with an alcohol swab just to get sort of like fingerprints and stuff off of it. And then obviously some toothpicks, because you want to pick out dust particles or pop bubbles. Scissors to cut out your pattern. And then I usually have like an old washcloth that I use, because when I glue this down, I usually have some that will come out and I'll just kind of wipe that off. So, and then obviously you're going to need your template. So this fits perfectly inside this little bezel. And then you're going to need some sort of painting. This was used, I used the GenCrafts Metallics pouring paint with this. And I just put some dots down of the different colors, smashed two pieces together, pulled it apart, and it makes kind of a neat pattern. It's not great. It's not a great little painting or anything. It was just fun. And I think so we'll probably cut out something, you know, along those lines right there. So I'll show you how to do that in just a second. Not hard. So we're going to get these pendants out of the way, and you can stack them, and they're not going to, you know, these have been curing for about a week. I really like my pendants, anything I do with resin, to cure for at least a week, because you can tell, once you start working with resin, you can tell, you can feel when it gets like super hard and it's ready to be worn or used, or, you know, whatever. Because even after a couple of days, it depends on what the temperature is. If it's nice and warm and hot, your resin's going to cure faster. If it's cold, it says to pour this resin between 70 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit, but it's rarely 70 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit around here. It's either super cold or super hot. So those pendants that I poured, it was probably about 40 degrees in the house, and as you can see, they're perfect. So you've got the resin here and the hardener here, and like I say, obviously these are chemicals, you know, so, or not chemicals, but I mean, this is some pretty, even though it says non-toxic, you definitely don't want the dogs or the, you know, your pets or your kids getting a hold of it. So just be careful when you're storing this stuff. Keep it in a nice, dry, warm place, and away from kids. But that's that. Okay, and then we've got a little piece of paper in here, and it's just got real simple instructions. The reason it has simple instructions is because it's super simple to use. Step 1, measurement. So you're going to pour equal amounts of resin part A and the hardener part B into a container, into 2 little containers. I like to put them into 2 containers and then mix them together. Now, if you have like a measuring cup, you can do it that way, but I always end up accidentally pouring a little extra of one, like usually the second one. So if I did that in the same cup, I'd be mixing too much. So don't do that. Just go ahead and just use 2 little cups and then put them together. Be on the safe side. And then, of course, you are going to mix them. It says mix thoroughly for 3 to 5 minutes. You can see when your resin is actually pretty well mixed, it gets real clear. But be on the safe side, mix it for 3 to 5 minutes. And be gentle with it so you're not working in a bunch of air bubbles. Be sure to scrape the sides and the bottom of the container well to ensure the entire mixture will catalyze properly. That means you want to have the proper chemical reaction. Otherwise, you're going to be really sad when a week later your resin still hasn't cured. And it says workable time is about 15 to 20 minutes, but let me tell you something. I worked with this stuff for like an hour, and it still wasn't set to where I couldn't use it anymore. So again, it's going to depend on the temperature, obviously. But this is sort of a be on the safe side, allow 15 to 20 minutes working time and no more than that, just so, you know, just in case it sets a little faster, you're prepared. And then step 3, the curing process. It says within the first 5 to 10 minutes of setting, a heat or torch gun may be used to in a gentle sweeping motion, inches above the project surface to help eliminate bubbles. And then it says allow project to cure in a clean, dry area for 24 to 48 hours. So obviously cover it up because there's dust moving around your house, and it will just, like moth to a flame, it will go straight for your resin. So it says eliminate bubbles. That's one of the things I've noticed about this resin, is that it doesn't produce nearly as many bubbles when you're stirring it as a lot of other resins do. So that's another good thing about it, is that it's a lot easier to get the bubbles out of your project. And I haven't poured into any solid containers yet, like a little pendant type, like a crystal pendant, but I will be doing that in one of the upcoming videos. So we can see, you know, kind of what the bubbles do. Do they all come out? You know, whatever. But yeah, so be super careful with it. It's resin. You guys know, you know, even if you've never worked with resin before, you know that it's a serious, I won't call it a toy. I call most of my art supplies toys, but this is really, you know, you got to be careful with it. So we're going to move all this other stuff out of the way. We're going to move the resin for just a second. And so here's our picture. And there's our pendant we're going to use. Now these pendants that I ordered, they're supposed to be antique, so they've got a little bit of gray around them. So if I'm using like a white painted background or something, I might go through with a toothpick and scrape that out. So, you know, if you don't like that black finish in there, or you can take a little bit of white paint and just paint around the edges. That works too. So we're going to find our little pattern that we like. Just kind of move it around till you find something, you know, find the pattern you like. I kind of like it right there. And stick your little template down. It gives you some nice little bitty sharp scissors, because the bigger the scissors are, the harder it is to cut out a nice perfect little pattern. And don't cut into your template like I nearly did. We're going to move that out of the way. And I'm just going to take it and cut it out really carefully, because I'm a little, I don't like to have like the edges of the bezel showing up around my little painting. So I'm a little particular about it, and I'm really blind as a bat. I can hardly see what I'm doing. So this is kind of hard for me to do. But if you make your template with like a cardboard, you know, something a little thicker than just like a piece of paper, it'll be easier to trim around it, because your scissors will kind of bump up against that edge. Normally I would just do this off screen, but I want you guys to see how easy it really is to make some beautiful pendants for yourself with, you know, just using a few products from one particular company. And in this case, it's GenCrafts today. Okay, so there we go. We've cut out our circle. Let's see what we've got. It's a pretty little piece. I like it. Now you just kind of have to decide, do you want it completely upright? Look at that. It almost fits perfectly. We might have to trim that edge just a little bit, but I kind of like it like that. You know you've cut it perfectly if it does not want to come out of the mold. So you just kind of turn it around, maybe like that. I don't know. That one's not bad too, either. Or sideways. You really have to, or even, I kind of like it diagonal too. I think we'll do it on the diagonal. So let's fit it in there and make sure it's actually going to fit, because you don't want to have to cram it in there once you've got the glue on there, because then you'll have where your picture will come up along the edges and it doesn't look right. So we just need to trim just a hint off of it, maybe over here. There we go. Okay, so I'm gonna pause this video for just a second and trim it and come back. Okay, so I have trimmed it a little bit, and I noticed along this little edge right here, it's just a little bit, I probably trimmed it just a little bit too much. So put a little bit of that metallic paint from GenCrafts, metallic pouring paint in there. And so now when I put it in there, you're not going to see that silver edge around there. So now we're going to take our diamond glaze and we're just going to make sure our tip is open. And with this diamond glaze, just a little tip, if it clogs up, because this little tip can clog up, you stick a toothpick through the end of it and kind of push it through, and you'll get whatever's clogging the edge of it there. All right, so we're just going to put a fair amount. I like for the entire backing to be glued on. That will actually help your air bubbles from coming up from behind the bezel, because with this you don't really have to worry about it, but with some paintings, like especially with canvas, if you're putting canvas in there, we're going to put it in just like that. With canvas, sometimes the paint is not quite thick enough and air bubbles will come up from underneath it right in the middle of your pendant, and you're really wondering how in the world that happens, but it does. So I'm just going to take my washcloth, go around the edges, and then I'm going to kind of look on the diagonal and see if any little edges need pressing down. Because you want them to be flat, because if they're not flat all the way around, you'll be able to tell once the resin is poured. Now this glue dries completely clear, so even if it looks a mess, even if you get a bunch of glue, like even if you got it across the front here, you'd never see it, because once you pour the resin on it, the resin will become very good friends with your glue. Okay, so there we are. So really, by the time I'm ready to pour my resin, I don't suggest gluing down and then pouring your resin the same day. I usually like to put my glue down and then pour the next day, because even though that super glue dries fast, when it's underneath this painting here, sometimes it doesn't dry quite as fast. So what we're going to do is set this aside, and I've got a few other little pendants here. I actually got this pendant goes with, these are going to become little earrings. And then we've got a bigger pendant. So we're going to pour resin into these pendants right here and save that other one for another day, unless I feel like let's just go ahead and do it. We'll probably save that one for another day. So I'm just kind of moving everything out of the way. I already sort of wiped down my paintings with one of these, just because, you know, I've been touching them for a long time and I don't want any fingerprints, you know, any oils from my fingers to sort of react with the resin and cause it not to stick well. I also have this tile here, so I like to do 2 coats of resin on these tiles. One, I'll just smear it all over so it's just a nice thin coat, and then the second is just a it's basically like a big puddle, and you can see all the texture in that tile, I hope, from the reflection of the light. You won't see any of that once the resin gets poured on it, because it will level out perfectly, beautifully. And to put my little pendants, I don't put them on the table. I like to put them on these little samples of wood flooring. That way I can move them around the table without disturbing anything. And I can kind of get down on the level of the table and see if, you know, if they're level. And this particular pendant, you have to pay attention to your pendants. This one you don't have that problem with. It's perfectly flat across the back. But this one, you can see this pendant kind of comes back this way. So you don't want to lay it flat, otherwise your doming is going to be crooked. So hang it off the edge of something. Always have your cover ready. And another reason I like to wipe these down with alcohol swabs is because sometimes there's some dust on there, and that will show up in the resin. So we're going to mix up the resin real quick. All I'm going to do is take these 2 little cups, set them on a flat surface next to each other, and I'm going to pour these in there. Before we do that, let's make sure you guys can see what I'm doing here. Oh yeah, you're still in there pretty well. Let's move you up a little bit. Okay, so like I said, I'm gonna go ahead and put my gloves on, just in case. Although usually when I'm pouring with the containers, I don't have any problem. If you're nice and neat when you're pouring, that's one thing you got to remember about resin, is you need to be nice and neat. Take your time. So I'm just going to pour some in here, probably about, oh, I don't know, maybe almost half full, but not quite. I really don't need much for these very few pendants. And again, I've told you this before when I've done resin, do small projects. Small projects. So if you have, 20 or 30 pendants you want to resin, don't do them all at the same time. Do just small batches. Okay, and that is perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So as soon as I'm done with these, I like to put them straight back into the box and set them on the floor, out of everybody's way, out of my way. All right, so now we're going to, and some resin companies will tell you, mix this into that, mix that into this first. I don't think it really matters. With some resins it might, but both of these, the resin and the hardener, are both relatively thin, so you can get most of it out of the cup, almost all of it out of the cup, quite easily. So make sure you're scraping down the sides. You're getting those little dents in the bottom of your little cup, if you've got any, to get all that resin out of there. And move this aside, but leave it on the plastic because it will drip. And just mix slowly, carefully. Let's see if we can get it any closer to you guys. You'll be able to see it better. And you can kind of see it's a little hazy at the moment. That's what resin does. It's supposed to do that. That's the chemical reaction going on. You see how hazy that looks? Don't worry, it will get better. It will clear up as soon as you've got it all mixed together. I have to be careful because I'm holding these directly over my pendants. Scrape your sides. I can already see it starting to clear up. And don't worry about the bubbles. In a tiny little cup like this, you can easily torch them out. You can actually pop them with like a little needle or something as well if you're afraid of a torch. Oops, going off screen, sorry. But you can see it's looking clear already. Scrape the sides really well. Do that many times. Scrape your sides, scrape the bottom. Now you can really see how much clearer it's getting. Kind of keeping my hand under it in case it drips down the side. It won't drip into those pendants just yet. Alright, so look, it's beautiful. I'm going to finish stirring this for the next 3 to 5 minutes, and we'll be back. Alright, so we have mixed up the resin, and we're just going to pour it into our little bitty pendants real quick. And don't pour from the cup because you'll just make a mess. And you just want to be really careful because these teeny tiny little pendants, they can be pendants or they could be like pieces off. You can make a bracelet with them. I like to make earrings that match the pendant. But you can see how it's kind of spread. I don't know if you can see really how it's spreading or not, but I'm just going to go ahead and leave that for a second. I might put one more drop into that one, maybe. But you just want to go slowly. Now this is a painting I had done a long time ago on the spinner, and It looked cool, but it was very uniform, and I think it got stuck to another painting anyway, so the edges kind of got messed up. So that's what you can do with your paintings that you don't like, that are not quite exactly what you had hoped for. Turn them into pendants. I love my paintings way more as pendants than I do as paintings. The resin, for some reason, just makes your paintings so yummy. I know that sounds strange to some of you, but when you get this resin pendant finished and you've got it in your hands and you're feeling it, and it just, it has this nice weight to it, and it's shiny, and it's just yummy. That's the only word I can think of. It's just yummy. Okay, so my resin has spread out. I'm kind of looking at it from the side here. I'm going to go ahead and pour some resin into this, and this one is big enough I can pour directly into, because this is a bigger pendant and it's deeper, so I can pour way more resin into this one than I can into these other little ones over here. And I want to be careful, not too much at a time. We'll set that down, and I'm going to go ahead and torch these. Make sure we get all the air bubbles out. That's all that takes. And I'm going to look at it from the edge here. Okay, so my big one is not domed yet. My blue and green one is quite well. I think we're going to add just a tiny little drop to those. And then maybe another drop to this one. A couple of drops to that one. And take a look at it again. It's a little better. And with these pendants, what I like to do is once I'm done pouring it in there, I'll take it and touch the edge of the pendant so that it goes over onto that metal edge. I just think it looks better that way. So this one we're going to pour just a little bit more into, a little bit at a time, because it hasn't even reached this edge yet. There we go. Now I can see it spreading over. We're going to torch them again. And you don't want to torch it too much, because the heat will make your resin even more flowy. If that makes any sense. But then I'll take my toothpick and I'll just kind of go around the edges. Now I can see I didn't cut this pendant. I didn't cut this paper real great, but that's okay. I'm just going to go all the way to the edges, but not over. You got to be careful. I think it just looks a little better that way, a little more finished when it's over the edge of this particular pendant. Now you don't want to do that with all your pendants, obviously, but I just like it with this particular pendant. And you can use your toothpick to move things around instead of sticking your finger in there. Because if you stick your finger in there sometimes, even if you're touching just the edge of your pendant, you might touch that resin, and then that's just it. That is just it for you. The resin will go over the edge, and you'll be crying. So, okay, so we've got it over the rest of that edge. And we're just going to leave that alone. Now let me take a look. Looks like everything is okay. I still don't have a real good dome edge on that. So I'm just going to put a little bit more. Just a little bit. Because if you put too much of a dome, it just gets too heavy and it goes over. Okay. That's barely a dome. I don't want to test that one out by putting any more in there. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and dome my other edge and then show you guys. Okay, so I finished putting an edge, of resin on the metal. And I'm going to show you from the side there. We've got a sort of a nice domed edge on them. And they're kind of washed out at the moment just because I've got a super close-up on my phone right now. But they're actually quite pretty. That one's really pretty. And then over here, we've got that one. So that one's pretty cool too. Okay, so real quick, we're going to pour over this one. And I'm just going to go ahead and pour the rest over. And I'm going to use my hands, because I have gloves on, obviously, to sort of smear that around, because that's definitely not enough for the to have a nice finish to it. But look what it does to those metallics. Very, very pretty. Resin just brings out the life in paint. I'm going to be super, super careful, because I do not want this to drip on the little pendant right there. As you can see, look how it brings the black back to life, back to shiny, like it was when it was wet. I'll do the edges, and this is just the first coat of this. I'll do a second coat off camera. That way you guys will be able to see in the next video, where I can show you how beautiful these turned out from this GenCrafts resin. Really is nice resin. Very easy to work with. I've been doing this for what, half an hour now, and it's still easily workable. Easily workable. Let's turn that. It's just sort of balancing on one little cup there, so. I just want to make sure I get all the little edges. And make sure you tilt it towards the light. Make sure you've got the whole thing coated, and this will flatten back out. The resin will flatten back out. And even if it didn't, you know, we've still got the final layer to go. So I'm just kind of running my finger under the edge, the back edge, just to sort of seal it up. And when you're covering tiles like this, you guys have to learn from my mistakes. For one, don't drop your tiles after you've made a beautiful tile, but do at least 2 coats on these tiles, because if you do drop them, what happens if they hit the corner? You can damage the resin, because you know it's a nice hard surface. It can, you know, any resin can crack if under enough stress. So just be aware of that. Okay, so there we go. There's that. Look how beautiful that is. Oh, so pretty. All right, and I'm going to take my gloves off because now they're covered in resin. I'm not going to touch that again. We're going to torch it. Just any kind of air bubbles out from all that manipulation. Torch these again. I will babysit these for the next, as some of the other resins. So that's another good thing. Okay, well that one, that really is pretty with that resin on it. So, all right, so guys, I want to thank you for supporting my channel in every way that you do, and the emails and the text messages, and you know, I hope that everyone out there is happy and healthy, and I'll come back either at the end of this video or in the next video and show you guys the results of our beautiful resined pendants. But take care of yourselves out there. I just got the first vaccine shot for COVID, and it's made me feel a little tired, definitely. Not real great, but the flu shot always does that to me every year. Actually, it doesn't make me feel as bad as flu shot usually does. But my arm is really sore. So if any of you guys out there have had this shot, you know, I've done a lot of research. It's normal. It's your body's immune response, which is exactly what it's supposed to do. So just, you know, take a day or 2 off of work if you go get that shot. And like I said, we'll be back and I'll show you the results of these once they're all done. Hi guys, we're back. Okay, so we've got the finished pieces. these you've seen from the beginning of the video here, and I went ahead and later on that evening went ahead and poured resin in this piece, and it turned out really, really nice. Let's give you a close-up of these little babies. There we go. And as you can see, a nice perfect finish to them. Beautiful. And then we'll do the little earring set, which I will put little earring clasps on later on at some point. But again, another perfect little finish to those. Let's see if we can. There we go. The sunlight's coming in. I'm real early in the morning here, so the sunlight's coming in and showing off these pretty little babies. A real big one here. Turned out really nice as well. Hope you guys can see that. And then this one, the pretty metallic, really sort of glows in the sunshine. I'm really hoping you can see that really pretty. But you can see how nice the shine is on them. Trying to get it to sort of reflect over the I can't get the little, there we go. Alright, so there are our finished pieces. And like I said, they turned out perfect. Lovely finish to them. This resin is, here we are. We got a nice little, I hope you can hear that. It's like a wine glass clink almost. Nice little hard finish to them. And like I said, the little earrings will be finished with some just little dangles. And of course, all of these pieces are for sale. I can put a chain on them or not put a chain on them for you guys. A lot of times people like to put their own chain to them. So yeah, the tile is not finished yet. I did not get a chance to pour a second coat on it yet, so I'll show that to you in a later video. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, obviously leave them in the comments below. And thank you for supporting my channel. And thank you for supporting GenCrafts and ordering some of this gorgeous resin. One note with the resin, make sure that you clean your, if you've got like a piece like this that had silicone in it, make sure you clean it really well before you pour the resin on it, because the silicone will definitely cause the resin to sort of get cloudy. Thank you, Abby, for drinking your water so early in the morning. Hi, Abby. Okay, so I hope you guys, wherever you're on the planet, you're taking care of each other, you're happy, you're healthy, you're wearing your mask in public, and hopefully some of you out there, if not a lot of you, are out there getting your vaccine. And this is where we'll say goodbye. Yeah. I love you all. See you later. Bye.